Oi, Joe. Todo kuno khalida na dak magiski. Hello, and how are you? This is Chief Eagle Spirit Dancing of the Cherokee Blackfeet Cultural Circle, again to present to you another edition. Uh, an indigenous perspective on the current realities, more or less updates, what's going on, you know, basically, to inform my people of historical events and current events. Um, I sit here before you again humbled by the responses that I have received from my brothers and sisters who appreciate the information that I am conveying via YouTube, internet. Um, and I say this with the utmost sincerity of my heart that I am truly, truly heartened by the responses, the positive ones, um, that people have taken, the time to listen to what I and the organization I represent have to say. Today's topic, Tecumseh, should I say the title should today would be Tecumseh's Vision Revisited. Yes, Tecumseh's Vision Revisited. I through the past several years of my intense research, there have been a few iconic indigenous figures who rose up against the then not yet established order. And that's the time when we were at war and they were positioning themselves. But they were iconic figures, our heroes, who rose up against the establishing order at that time, if you will, government. And they rose up in such a way, and those that I highlight as iconic, Tecumseh being one of them, nearly at the top of the list. I named my son after Tecumseh. I have such love and admiration for the man, for his vision and what he espoused. When I reflect on what the man um, stood for and the nation, the tribal nation it came from, the Shawnee. I again, my adoration for him can't be expressed enough. From the name, his beautiful name, to what he stood for. No, I love more than what he stood for than just the name itself. Um, Again, so much so as I named my son. But anyway, I wanted to reflect a little on his short life and what he tried to accomplish. And sometimes I say it with a heavy heart because his vision, how beautiful as it was, is almost still a fleeting illusion for the indigenous peoples. And reasons why I say this is reflecting upon his message, how widespread he traveled to and fro up and down the eastern seaboard into the interior of the country as far west as he could go. Um, his vision was simple. We unite as an indigenous peoples, or we die and get tossed to the wayside and divided and become vagabonds in our own front and backyard. And even the most blind of our people can see that that has come to fruition. So, reflecting upon his quest and the passion which he served with, what he wanted to accomplish was a united Indian front or a state. He saw the threat, total annihilation by the Europeans of our people, by their onslaught in numbers coming from Europe, and not and as much as their actions as well, that they would not be denied stealing our lands. As much as we shared with them, as much as they wanted, and even more. And of course, when you're being pushed to the ocean, there's nowhere else left for you to go but to stand and fight. Such was the case of Tecumseh. So then, therefore, that's what produced his vision. He said, we are tribal in our communities, but if we forge alliance, and it reflects on Deganawida as well. Deganawida was the prophet who came in the midst of conflict in the northeastern hemisphere of the country and told the people stop warring amongst themselves, and said that if they would become like 5 arrows instead of one, it cannot be broken. And this was the wisdom that he had sent forth. So I guess that, or assume that Tecumseh came out of that um, those wise words that were set forth by the lawgiver Deganawida for our people to unite. But as Tecumseh saw his people turn to dust and our numbers decrease from death and famine caused by the Europeans who chopped down our orchards, the northern eastern tribes called George Washington Hananangayas, which means town destroyer. You know, they burned our farmlands. They did this to cause us to die. They knew that we were separate and apart in our different villages and communities, and said that this is how they were going to conquer us. So what have we learned? The Idle No More movement, which I have been just started watching recently, I wasn't even aware of it until, let's say, a few days ago. Um, they look like, it's a serious movement for indigenous peoples. I hope it's dealing with the collective of the indigenous and not just one part. I don't know, because I'm just becoming engaged in the movement, and I have more to learn about what they're doing. I'm for any movement that's for the upliftment and the betterment of our people, regardless of color. Um, but also to make sure that they're truly indigenous peoples and they do reflect that which is for the betterment of indigenous peoples. But again, not going off topic, uh, I can't begin to emphasize enough how important it is that the unity of the indigenous. And when I say unity, not we just go to protests, and rally around each other for a few good words, networking, reaching out to other organizations. Give an example. The the Haudenosaunee, that was a prime example of what networking and unity is, or was, excuse me, one time when the Five Nations realized that from what the lawgiver had given them, because that was produced, well, that was what was produced from that, they had realized that we're much stronger, unified, and engaged in our everyday activities and lives, that we would better benefit each other working together in trade and through marrying into the tribes, keeping not incest. I mean, when I say marry, I mean from one tribe to the next. One daughter marry a son from the next tribe. Therefore, we wouldn't cause an incestuous, you know, or any genetic disorders to take place as a result of intertribal marriage. We made sure that because when you're talking about cousins, you can marry. I think it says maybe about the fifth or the sixth cousin in the family, because therefore the genes are no longer. It's almost like putting two car batteries together. It's the same kind of battery, and it's so close in its genetic makeup. If everything is identical and you put it together, you're going to get a spark. So almost the same thing with the genes. So it has to be a separation. So, but getting to the core of what I'm trying to say is that the purpose of the Haudenosaunee with the longhouse, as they called it, which was the connection from the northern part of, I believe it was Albany. I could be mistaken. Don't quote me on this. Somewhere down to maybe Schenectady, where the tribes, the Five Nations, would protect each other from west to east and north to south. If one was threatened, they would be able to connect or communicate to the East Gate, and say, look, we're having problems with someone coming from further south of us. They're threatening us for our resources, and we need help. Or if one was experiencing agricultural dilemma and needed food or water, there would be an exchange, or should I say, a sort of like a Red Cross help effort that took place that would ensure our neighbors, our brothers from the north to the south, to the west, to the east, that we would ensure our survival. See, this is the key. This is another reason why Tecumseh's vision is so valuable. Then, even today, even more so today. But until we realize and understand fully the magnitude of what he taught and why, we will forever be arguing over frivolous things, divided over things that are irrelevant, and dying constantly. because we live in a time that is very, very dangerous. All this threat of, nuclear conflict, famine, floods. If you look around the country today, especially what's going on right now, tornadoes, you know, um, windstorms. Just last night here in the northeast part of the Bronx, where I live, we had a windstorm. It shook. I live in a concrete house, based house, and the whole building shook. And this dwelling I live in is not even 12 years old. It shook. I was up. We had a power outage for a few seconds. It doesn't happen very often, but up here, to hear that, I know that there is something much greater out there that's affecting the weather. It's no spook or it's no spirit. But anyway, so my point is that we have to be each other's brothers and sisters keeper. The indigenous populations have been reduced in number. And I'm not just talking about physical number, I'm talking about the mentality of our people. Some of us have such foolish pride. Oh, I'm Nantucket, or I'm Mashpee, or I'm Oneida, or I'm Seneca. I don't bother with those Cherokees over there. I don't bother with those people over there. Uh, and this is the type of attitude that's going to get us destroyed. People, there was a movie that they did about Geronimo Gayote, and I remember it vividly. It was the end part when West Studi was playing, and they was riding on the train going to Florida, and Geronimo said, according to them, this was what he uttered on the train. He said, no one knows why Osun, what they refer to as the Great Spirit or God Himself, saw to it to um, uh, end the Apaches the way they lived, and then allow the white man to take the land. You know, I had said this in one of my other videos. No, people are totally destroyed from, uh, they're not destroyed from without unless there's something going on within. They had sellout Apaches. They had sellout Cherokees. They had sellout Narragansett. You go anywhere and you will find some of our people who have sold their souls for a piece of pork. Let's give it an example. Or a piece of land. Or just to stand shoulder to shoulder because of the weapons that they had. The clothes were different. The human being is an interesting entity. Whenever we see something different, uh, we tend to gravitate towards it. Some of us, if it's different, some of us are fearful of it. Some of us smile on our face. Wow, look at that shiny metal. Wow, look at that. I've never seen this before. This is nice. Wow, what I would do to get my hands on something. This is why Sitting Bull told at the Custer's last stand. He told the warriors, do not touch the spoils of the, the dead soldiers. Do not covet anything that they have. Now they say that the the Lakota and other indigenous tribes suffered as a result, that to this very day, as a result of them taking from the dead soldiers. I have some reservations about that. The reasons why is that there are Indians still suffering all over this country who didn't get a chance to engage in a Custer's last stand, who were damn near massacred, almost wiped out completely, and are still suffering as a result. The European just came here with malicious intent, and that was to steal, rape, and commit every vile act underneath the sun. So, but the moral of that story is, do not covet something that someone else has because it's different from you. It might cause you to lose who and what you are. And just because outwardly it looks good don't mean that it's almost like um sugary things. Tastes good, but we know it ain't good for you. In the long run, too much sweets. That's my big problem. I have a big problem with with chocolate. So in the long run, it'll hurt you. Type 2 diabetes. To just to mention a few things that can cause you. So the moral here is that we should never covet something that someone else has just because it looks good. So therefore, our people were destroyed because we started seeing things that they had that looked nice, that made our lives easier. You know, metals that certain indigenous tribes, did not use. Guns, even though they were noisy, apart from the arrows that we used, that was quiet and stuff like, they were more efficient. We decided we wanted to use those. So these were the things, these little materialistic things sent our people into a tailspin, and therefore we started to change and sell ourselves for these little trinkets, and then sell our people ultimately. Then the white man said, "Oh, we got him. We got him." All we do is have to throw these little things at some of them, and they can give us inside information on the people. Then we can go destroy them. This is little by little, slowly but surely. This was one of the effectual means that they use to destroy our people. And if we haven't learned from this, then we don't have a future. Some of us are still smitten by the little things, the shiny things that we see today. It's harder for us today to teach our children the basics on our culture and the history of our people. And they don't want to hear it because the world offers them so many different shiny things. And don't get me wrong, there's some good things out there. But the Creator is about to show us, hey, you've forgotten how to live the least ways in nature to survive. At one time, our people were the greatest survivalists in the natural world. They couldn't find anyone better than the indigenous people, especially here in North and South America. We were the masters of our terrain. We go to powwows today, we dance in our regalia, but how many of us know about nature? How many of us know how to survive out in the wild? I'd say less than half or 1% of our people today. So Tecumseh's vision, I don't know if it's realized yet by the masses of our people. I would like to believe in the hearts and minds of some of our people it is, and some of the people that I have spoken to. In order for us to, come to this realization, we have to remove everything that the European has taught us. And then we have to remove even before that, because when Tecumseh was here, he visited various tribes, and there were those who said, no, we wish to keep the peace with our white brothers, even though they were planning their destruction, which they did not know because the mindset of the European was different of the mindset of the Indian. We didn't believe in annihilation of a people, especially with women and children. That wasn't part of our makeup, But this was something that he had no problems doing, as we know through history. They have gone in and wiped out entire villages of indigenous peoples, women and children alike. That's irrefutable.
It's 1 o'clock.
It's absolutely irrefutable. But Nonetheless, it has happened. So here we are, 2013. Um, People are mocking the Mayan calendar. What does this have to do with Tecumseh's vision? A lot. Because unity, again, is at the core of this. You know, the, the Mayan calendar talked about change. Didn't say if it was good or bad. But then if you look into the details of the writings that they've managed to decipher, it talks about horrific things going on. It talks about floods, massive earthquakes, and well, the earth we're going through that right now, and it's magnifying itself. Just people who are looking to profit and make money off of December 21st. You know, was throwing stuff. Oh, it's going to happen on the 21st. Yeah, so on that particular day. But anyway, so Tecumseh was trying to warn us. We had better be our brother's keeper, or face certain death. Death, the worst type of death is not a physical one. It's a mental and spiritual death, a cultural death, cultural genocide. Most of our people have suffered and are still suffering the effects of cultural genocide today. On the reservations, indigenous peoples are alcohol levels are it's beyond comprehension. The unemployment, um, no recompense from the governments to help our people to rebuild, to restore ourselves, because there comes with, okay, if we give you money, you have to give us a percentage of your land. Take the Lakota. They said, we want your Black Hills. We want the oil. We want the gold that we found in the Black Hills. The indigenous Lakota said, hell no, we ain't giving that. It's not for sale. And I agree with them 1,000%. Don't give up another inch of land to these people so they can take these resources out of the ground and poison the land, which they have already done to a great degree, and then leave the people with nothing, and just, you know, exchange it for $1 million, or, you know, whatever monies that they offered them, knowing that they got to use that same money to go back to the people who stole the land to begin with, to buy things that they need. So it wouldn't be long before the money would be gone anyway. They know that. That's why they made that offer. You know, it would be nice if the government said, okay, we did you a great harm, a great, you know, a great offense. We're going to give you the resources and things that you need. That would be righteous. That would be a righteous thing. But they're not going to do that. So I don't believe that the brothers in the res, you know, believe that the government is going to be forthcoming in that regard. You know, to say that it's an exchange. I give you something, you give me something. But the government, they usually want some land that they found something there, wherever there are indigenous peoples who are remnants or left over from the broken treaties on the Indian reservations who are left. But my point is that today you have Indians who are making millions of dollars for gambling. I have my reservations about that, but nonetheless, I'm here to judge. I'm here to point out that, between that and indigenous peoples who do have some measure of land, we were an agricultural people. What happened? All right, there are reservations that are so dry, you can almost put a beachfront there. The ground is so dry and infertile. This is also something that was done that was um, intentional. and then they turn around and tell people to grow, crops on land that's infertile. Go figure, right? This is what was to be expected of us. Uh, uh, a possibility out of an impossibility. It made no sense, and they wonder why there's such destitution. Today there was never any offer of from the despair of the indigenous peoples and I'm talking about the Plains Indians here, Cheyenne, Lakota, nomadic tribes, who move back and forth from season to season, from um, um, parcels of land to another parcel, whether it's in the wintertime or in the spring and summer months. They were left, to their own vices after they were cornered and put on this parcel of land indefinitely, just to stay there. I mean, it's nothing but what the American government built for them and said, "Oh, this is how you have to live now." With the Eastern Woodland Indians, different scenarios. Some of us left uh, to our own, devices as well. Um, we either absorbed more into Western culture, um, but still stayed on our pieces of land that we were bounced around. Some of us who managed to escape from the reservations that we were set up for, and some of us still managed to maintain tribal identities, but lived on different parts of the same land that they knew. Meaning that if you were in South Long Island, you might have had to move a little to the north of Long Island and say maybe 20 miles, but you maintained your cultural identity, and you lived an indigenous way of life, at least, up until time said that, well, now some of us have to go out because we see what's going on into the world, and some of us have to leave the reservations in order to survive because our old ways were starting to wither. You had agents that were sent out by the government to go after our children, take them away, put them in boarding schools. The list goes on. The list goes on. But now here we are today. We're free, right? Are we totally unified? No. The work is enormous for us. It's a huge task. Tecumseh's vision is of no small order. He meant for a total united Indian states, Turtle Island, you know, um, and it's not a bad thing. Our culture, in terms of the things that we made, our dress, similar. There were differences. Whether it was from the way we wore our hair, the way we wore our moccasins, the style of moccasins were different. Um, the headdresses, some of the headdresses were different. The chiefs, the warriors. Yeah, these are minute. They're minute things. Some people say, "Oh Lord, that's not minute." It's a major thing. Well, fine, but these are outward um, 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 things that we can overlook for the greater good, for our survival. That's why I had brought up the whole thing with the Haudenosaunee in the Longhouse. We must remember and incorporate it into our psyche what Tecumseh was trying to tell us. God help us if we don't. The time is short. We're running out of time. North America was given to our people. We've been here for over 16,000 years. How do you know that? This is the information I got even before I found out I was native. I found out the Indians have been here for over 16,000 years, and we came here from India. There are some tribes. This is another thing. Some tribes teach that we sprang up from the creeks and the streams and the rivers because of the creation stories. All right, fine. People want to believe that. Fine, okay. That's not the point here. The ultimate point is that we must oversee our petty differences and utilize what little that we do have, and that is um, um, the significance of our being indigenous to the land, how we affect one another with that, and who and what we are to the land, and that if realized, it can be magnified, and that Tecumseh's vision can finally and forever be realized within the minds and the hearts of our people. This must come to pass and fruition. It must. The Creator is looking at us today. So what good are you? You let a people who were practically backwards when they got here. You helped them. Of course, you didn't know what they were up to, and rightly so, the indigenous peoples didn't have the mentality that they had. So we didn't know what to expect. But we had outnumbered them cross country. Divided we fall, united we stand. Every civilization that is either on the brink of destruction or they're halfway there and come to realize someone's going to stand up and say that we must unite. They have, and I'm certain that there has been more than just a handful who have come to the understanding and the realization to say, hey, look, we must wake up. All of us. Remember, we didn't consider ourselves Indians. We were tribal nations, right? Again, we went by our names: Narragansett, Mashpee, Nantucket, Oneida, Seneca, Cherokee. Like this, okay, we can keep that, but incorporate into one indigenous universe under a banner of indigenous peoples, united indigenous cultures in Turtle Island. I'm not one to come up with a name, but it's something that needs to be explored and discussed. Something that would model itself after the Haudenosaunee. When Benjamin Franklin came and saw the Haudenosaunee, he said, we're the savages. The indigenous peoples here are the more intelligent and principled people. This was Benjamin Franklin's own words. He said, we are the savages, meaning the Europeans, the English. They based their articles, some of the articles of our Constitution from the Haudenosaunees, and incorporated it into the American Constitution. Oh yeah, it's there. That information is there. So what we have forgotten has become a nightmare for us, and what we must learn from the lessons of those who came before us. Tecumseh's vision of a united Indian nation. And then the flip side to that was the destruction of our people, which he feared. And I'm almost certain before he was shot down by one of William Henry Harrison's soldiers in Ohio, he must have seen it as he lay dying. What dishonor we have reflected on the ancestors, and disregard, and not remembering the words that they left for us. We condemn our children if we do not honor our past. And I say our past, meaning forgetting the negative things that has happened. Remember those who sold our people out, and give warning to them who would consider these things again, because you better believe there are still forces out there who would love to see our people destroyed, to stay that way, never come to any prominence. There are people who do not want to see the indigenous. They'd rather see us engaged in mischievous behaviors. He said, if they're making money, as long as they're engaged in doing destructive things, you know, then it's all good for us. We already feel as though, we got the country. We've committed crimes. We haven't paid for our crimes against them. We've given them a new life. We've given the Indians a new life. Some good, you know. We have adopted a way of life that's contrary to our existence. I list the many different things and vices that we have picked up: drinking, gambling, smoking, just to name a few. Prior to Europeans coming here, we didn't have these problems, but nonetheless, it's there today. And it mostly came through pain and suffering that we picked up more of these things and magnified it. So we must learn how and who we were before colonial North America was born. That only comes through gnosis and study and research and networking and organizing our people and educating our people. We must reach out to those who would listen and want to do the work that is necessary for our survival. Tecumseh's vision revisited. I hope that upon the end of this lecture, this video, that some of my brothers and sisters out there will take this to heart. And if you're not a part of an indigenous organization, go find one. Look, I was adopted. I know people are getting tired of me saying this, but I wasn't a part of any indigenous organization up until 2006, 2007. And the healing had began for me. You know, the ills of our people are revealed in our social disorder, some of which I've laid out in some of my other videos. Things are not natural to our existence. When I keep saying natural and nature, everything has a nature. The animals, things that creep and crawleth in the world, they have a nature. They live a certain way and die. The Indian has a nature. We are down to earth, literally. We love nature. We love the outside world. And we love to live in harmony with it. We don't know anything else outside of that. Now, if there's a way for us to live civilized in terms of technology, and there is, we have to study it. There is a way to live with technology and not be destructive towards Mother Earth. It's called science. If you don't believe me, look at the Mayans. The technology that they had, Europeans still can't figure out how they built the temples. The Mayan city that they found in Georgia, they're still trying to figure it out. So that means we were an advanced people. We must start to remember these things. The only way that comes back is through gnosis, study, and research. My people, take heed to this if we are to survive this generation and to the next, or to the next several generations, as our people always look 7 generations ahead. The Creator is here and He is angry. He wants to see change, meaning He wants us to be restored. He wants the indigenous peoples of the world to restore themselves and go back to their essence. Tecumseh's vision can be achieved, but we must take steps. We can't sit idle no more like the movement. My life, as old as I am, I think about what I've gone through and what I have come to. I am somewhat pleased, not totally. Hey, I'm not as perfect as the words that you hear me speak on and speak about. I'm still struggling. I had been raised in the city. And coming back into myself, coming back into myself, is not easy. It takes time. They didn't destroy us overnight. It took time, and we were not completely destroyed. And if that was the case, then many of the brothers and sisters who engage in teaching and acts of restoration wouldn't be speaking and doing the things they are doing. Other people like Russell Means and West Studi and um, um, Tecumseh. I can't remember the sister's name, Tecumseh. And then some of the movies and the images that they portray of our people. This is all a part of the resurrecting of our natural instincts in us. It's there. It's there. It exists within us. So this is the legacy of Tecumseh. See, the man they can kill. You can't kill the idea. You can't kill the word. The word is infinite. So the word that Tecumseh left for us. Realize your unity, and you will realize life. Your ability to unify yourselves. You will realize that you are a powerful and a strong-willed people. And then root out all that which is destructive, and then you shall live. Um, so, with that, I don't know. I've been feeling in the spirit as of late, and so many topics running through my head. Sometimes when I'm out and about with my kids, and I don't get a chance to write them down. Sometimes I forget. It'll come back to me later on. But this is Tecumseh is something I wanted to touch on for the longest because he is such uh, a significant part of what indigenous peoples need to evolve to, evolve. We don't change as a people our ways. No, what we do need to change in is our disunity. That evolution is mandatory. We need that. So say 500 years from now, 1,000 years, and people are forgetful. Well, let me point this out. People are forgetful. And I'll tell you something, that's important, and I ask you 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, remember what I told you about such? No, I can't really, say that I do. Just totally forgot about it. So 500 years from now, Tecumseh's vision realized, would we have set up archives, museums? I think it's important to never forget. The Jews don't. They don't forget what Hitler did to them. Oh boy, they in the public schools that I went to every other week we were learning something about the Jewish Holocaust. This would be the same way with our people. We should never forget. Lest we do, it can happen again. So, oh, that's impossible. Um, you look at the world wars we've had since the time of Alexander. They call him the Great. I call Alexander a warmonger who was out for domination from jealousy and greed, all the way to Hitler. And you're talking about hundreds, if not thousands of years apart. So what did Hitler forget that Alexander did? He didn't forget nothing. It was the avarice. There was something in their DNA. They just had to go. They studied. Hitler studied about the Aryans, the Greeks, the Romans. They didn't know about what their ancestors had done. But he wanted to make a mark in the world, to kill, innocent Jews and put them in ovens and burn them, because his sadistic, mind was, and then go to the rest of the world and conquer the world. What was on this man's mind? And then for the millions of Nazis that follow behind him, makes you wonder. So what I'm saying here is a projection of 500 years into the future. It's not so hard to tell. People that follow that bloodline, they'll be looking back at what happened to us and looking around the world, say, now it's my place. It's my time now for me to conquer. What is in them? What is it in Europeans that they have to go conquer the world? Now, it wasn't just Europeans. It was also the Mongolians, Siberia, Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan, and the rest of them. They had this thing about you got to conquer the world. You know, nowhere I find in history that you'll find people like um, Hannibal, or in East Asia, Thailand, and all those places, where you had monsters produced. They had this idea that they had to conquer the known world, or the whole world, for their own greedy and egotistical lusts, if you will. If you did, maybe it was for a split second that they engaged in these moments of profit by going to other people's countries and invading because I want what you got. You know, what's under your feet belongs to me. And I'm going to kill every last one of you to get it if I have to. There is a longer history of European invasions, destruction, engaging in this type of bloody warfare for gain and for a place in the annals of history to say I was the greatest conqueror of all time. And for the 16,000 years, plus thousand years that indigenous peoples have been here in North America, you have not found us trudging across the world looking to conquer the rest of the known world. Nowhere. The Vikings, you know, and other destructive people. So, again, you know, Tecumseh's vision is important. It must be realized, or we'll suffer the same fate if we were to somehow be freed today or tomorrow of our shackles in order for us to be fully developed as an indigenous peoples again, but yet divided within our same you know, geography, and the way we were set up hundreds of years ago to relive that would be suicide. We must organize and unify, or become, you know, like leaves in the wind again, only to be dusted aside by another people who would come here ultimately and do the same thing again to us once again. And I don't believe the Great Spirit would allow this to happen once again. That's why I say if we do not, for all of the natural disasters that we're seeing now, these are warnings for our people to get our act together. Do you think the Great Spirit doesn't want to give us our country back? Well, I believe he does. What have you learned? Life is a lesson. And only the wise learn from those lessons and move forward. And do not repeat the same mistakes. We must know who our enemies are. Acknowledge them. And maybe engage them at times. Whether through verbal argument, with truth, or if we have to defend ourselves. Because we're never the aggressors. We never were the aggressors. We must protect our children. We must protect our future. And if we're going to have a future, we must protect that which is vital. Our very minds. And once we get that back, we can never relinquish it ever again. Aho. This is Chief Eagle Spirit Dancing of the Cherokee Blackfeet Cultural Circle. Signing out. I hope that this video was enlightening as the others, and I look forward to seeing you again. And we say Donadago honey, Nikido. Until we meet again, peace and blessings. I leave you with Northern Cree. good music. I just had to play it. Make me want to dance.